There's a specific kind of dread that hits around 11 p.m. when you're scrolling through your phone and you land on someone you went to high school with. They're announcing a promotion, or they just bought a house, or they're holding a baby and their partner is smiling, and they all look so perfectly assembled, like life handed them a kit, and they followed the instructions, and everything snapped together exactly right. And you're lying there in the dark thinking, what am I doing? Not in a dramatic crisis kind of way. Just this quiet, cellular level certainty that you are somehow behind, that everyone got a memo you missed, that the race started and you were still tying your shoes. Here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It's not a measure of your life. It's a measurement error. And your brain is the faulty instrument doing the measuring. In 1954, a psychologist named Leon Festinger proposed something called social comparison theory. His insight was elegant and slightly unsettling. Human beings have no internal compass for evaluating themselves. We don't experience our own worth in a vacuum. We can only understand where we stand by measuring ourselves against other people. For most of human history, that reference point was your village, your neighborhood, your actual community. People you could see in full. People you knew were struggling and falling apart behind closed doors. Your brain was calibrated for that world. A world where your comparison group was maybe 150 people, and you had fairly accurate information about all of them. That world no longer exists. Now your brain is doing what it was always designed to do, scanning the social landscape for signals about your relative standing. But the landscape has been replaced by something your nervous system was never equipped to process. Your reference group is now 7 billion people, and you only see the curated highlight reel of the subset who went viral for succeeding. This is the part that changes everything. When you feel behind your peers, you're not making a rational assessment. You're experiencing what researchers now call survivorship bias in digital environments. The people who show up most prominently in your feed, the 27-year-old with the startup, the 24-year-old who somehow already owns property in this economy, these are statistical outliers. They are not representative of your generation's experience. They are the exceptions whose unusual early success made them visible in the first place. The millions of people your exact age sitting in similar apartments, feeling similar uncertainty, quietly wondering if they're also behind. You don't see them. Not because they don't exist, because they have nothing to announce. You're not comparing yourself to your peers. You're comparing yourself to a filtered sample of the most anomalously successful people on the planet, and then feeling like you're the one who's failing. That's not self-awareness. That's a broken instrument producing bad data. But there's something underneath all of this that goes much deeper than social media. For your brain, status isn't a luxury. It's oxygen. In the world your nervous system was built for, being the slowest or the least successful didn't just mean a bruised ego. It meant you were the first to starve when food was scarce, and the last to be protected when the predator arrived. Loss of standing wasn't uncomfortable. It was a death sentence. So your brain developed a hair-trigger alarm system, one that treats any signal of falling behind as an existential emergency, something to be corrected immediately or survived at any cost. That alarm still fires, every single time. When you scroll past that successful peer, your brain isn't just feeling jealous. It's screaming that you are losing your place in the tribe. Cortisol floods your system. Your threat detection network activates. Your body responds to a highlight reel the same way it once responded to a genuine rival for survival. It's not weakness. It's not insecurity. It's a survival reflex firing at a digital ghost. And here's the cruelest part. The part that turns discomfort into a business model. The algorithm doesn't show you people who are doing okay. It shows you the 0.1% who are doing impossibly well. Because that is precisely what triggers the most intense psychological response. Uncertainty generates engagement. Inadequacy drives consumption. The platform is literally mining your status anxiety to keep you looking at the screen. Every aspirational post, every "I did the thing" announcement registers in your nervous system as a threat signal. And threat keeps you scrolling, watching, consuming. You aren't failing at life. You're failing to realize that your phone is a machine specifically designed to make you feel like you're losing a race that doesn't exist. There's also something worth naming about the mythology we've built around early achievement. We treat the 23-year-old founder the way previous generations treated child prodigies, as symbols of human potential at its peak, as if arriving later means arriving lesser. Neuroscience tells a different story. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for judgment, long-term planning, and emotional regulation, doesn't finish developing until around age 25. The deeper circuitry underlying wisdom and genuine direction continues forming well into the 30s. What researchers in developmental psychology call late bloomers aren't people who failed to launch early. They're people whose most important growth is happening on a biological timeline the cultural narrative refuses to acknowledge. Psychologist Rich Karlgaard spent years studying late bloomers and found that many of the most meaningful careers and contributions emerge precisely from people who resisted early crystallization, who spent their 20s in apparent confusion and their 30s in profound, sustainable clarity. You are not behind. You may simply be in the slow, invisible, essential stage that no one posts about. Not because you're losing, because real growth doesn't photograph well. Your life is not a highlight reel. It is something stranger and harder and more layered than that. The doubt, the detours, the nights you felt late to everything. That part doesn't make the feed, but it is the actual substance of a life being lived rather than performed. The version of you that keeps going, despite the noise, despite the comparison, despite the survival alarm your phone learned to trigger on command. That version is doing something that doesn't get announced or liked or shared, but it matters more than any of it. If this video named the knot in your stomach that's been there since you turned 20, subscribe. We don't do motivational fluff here. We do the uncomfortable analysis of the systems that run your brain. Leave a comment with your age and one thing you're doing that isn't for the feed. Let's calibrate our instruments to something real. Stay curious, stay grounded, and for God's sake, stop measuring your interior by someone else's exterior.